Here we are. All right. Well, it's great to see you guys. Really good to do this. I just wanted to, do this really informally. I knew it'd be kind of a small group of people who maybe just still had some lingering questions, and I'll stay on as long as we need to, and you feel free to as well. So you can ask your questions. We'll open it up in a couple minutes. Pop off if your questions are answered, hang out the whole time. We'll send you the recording, whatever's helpful for you. But I just want to get together. And I know it's so helpful when we get to hear other people's questions too. So I've been talking with a lot of you, a lot of other people who are in the program already, and just having these personal conversations, as I do every year. So I kind of get this real feel for what's on people's minds, and where there's a lot of overlap in the questions and stuff. So I'll talk a little bit about a couple things. The two biggest things that come up all the time are, can I really make a business at this? Like how? If yes, and the answer is yes. Spoiler alert, yes, you can have a business at this if you want to. And then the next obvious, excellent question is, well, how? Like, where do clients come from? How does this all work? So I'll talk a little bit about that. And the other kind of big question, and I'm hearing this one a lot this year too, is along the lines of, I don't think I'm ready, or I'm not sure that I have something that I need. Like, I don't have the right personality, I'm too old, I'm too young, I don't have the right experience. And really kind of this sentiment of, well, I think I just maybe need to be a student longer. And that one always gets me. I can't wait to talk to that one as well. Because I don't know. I'll get to it. I'll talk about it. But there's just so much in that I always just hear over and over, and I want to help clarify some things. And I'll just say, obviously, I don't know what's best for you. I don't know what's best for anyone, So, and I know when I've passed on things, I'll kind of have a reason, oh, it's because of this or it's because of that. And who knows what our real reasons are, because our mind doesn't really work that way. Our mind spits out reasons that seem logical and seem like they make sense. And yet who knows what's really going on. So I'm definitely not here to tell anyone that this is absolutely for sure the thing for you and you're ready right now, this minute. You know that better than anyone else. But I can tell you, I hear a lot of reasons that aren't real reasons. They're just kind of fears and stuff our mind tosses out. So I'll just speak to those. And for sure, the business side, the business thing is one of those. There's absolutely no question in my mind that if you want to make a business at this, you can, no doubt about it. So I thought what I might do is maybe just go sort of high level really quickly over kind of what the program entails. And I know, again, many of us have spoken already, and so you might know this, but I'll just do it in a very brief way. And then I'll speak a bit about those two questions and then just open it up, because I would love to hear how these concerns show up in your head and your voice, and then we can just talk about it that way. And at any point, just raise your hand if you have, want me to repeat anything, you have any other questions or clarifications at any point, yeah, just raise your hand and we'll just keep this very informal and just make sure that we speak to whatever's on your mind. So the training program is a 6-month training. It starts in January and goes through May. And the bulk of it, most of the training happens in our three-day times together. It is virtual, so there are people from all over the world. And this group for the 2021 course is, I'm so excited about it. There's people from Norway, France, Australia, Canada, US, places I'm forgetting right now, but it's a very international group, which is so fun. I just love it. It adds so much to it. So it is going to be all virtual. We'll see how things are in May toward the end, but I'm just assuming right now that we're going to do this all online together this time. And what happens in those three days is they're basically like retreats. We go really deep into this understanding together. My eye on this very small group that comes together for this is all about, does this person see things as deeply and simply and clearly as they can, because I know without question that when we see things as deeply and simply, when we're sitting in front of people and we just see, I know exactly what they're up against. Now, that doesn't mean we know how to solve their problem, because that's not what we're doing. We're not telling someone what to do with their marriage or how to eat or how to get out of their habit, but we're seeing for that person, wow, this person has everything they need. And they're really caught up in some thinking, some psychology moving through their head that looks absolutely true and solid and real to them. When we see that, like we just know it, like we know our names, we see it for the person in front of us, this work, if you call it that, is just fun and challenging and also easy at the same time. It's just a human to human conversation where it's like, ooh, I see what they're not seeing. And you're in your head kind of like, ooh, where can I point? What questions might I ask? What might I bring up? What stories might I share that helps open up something in them? It's super fun. And it's, like I said, it's challenging, and it's also so easy in a sense and fulfilling, because you're human too. And we don't throw that out the window. We're like, you don't have to know, you don't have to have been through what the person you're working with has been through, because you know suffering. I know suffering. We all know what it feels like to suffer. And we don't necessarily know what it feels like to suffer with the circumstances and the stories they're saying, but it's close enough. We know what suffering is about because we tell our own stories and we have our own circumstances. And so we just start to relate at that level. So, so we do these three-day trainings. And again, so much of that, it's really twofold. It's me looking at each one of you and us being together and seeing it in each other, like, wow, where do they have a little blind spot? Where can they see this more deeply? What's amazing about that is you get so much just personal benefit. That's where everything changes for you, just having gone through a 6-month immersion like this, where you're on somebody's mine all the time, and I'm helping you kind of see through your blind spots. The other piece of that, of course, is being in the practice of being in this conversation. And that, there's little skill-ish things that we work on. We just get in the conversation. You get a feel for the dance, the back and forth, the getting quiet, the not having your mind there in the background, or when it is, you're not listening because you're there with that person. The feeling of kind of tossing something out, listening beyond their words to what comes back, and then tossing out what comes up next. It's this really cool little dance. So we do that over and over and over again throughout 6 months, so that at the end of 6 months, you know that you can do it. There's no question. You've been doing it. You've been doing it already the whole time through, with feedback and with, in a really fun and light way, with feedback and support and guidance and all of that. So, so we'll do those on Zoom, those three-day retreats. In between that, we have some webinars with some of my favorite colleagues who I think just share aspects of this so well. We'll talk about coaching from this understanding. We'll have some group meetings where we all just check in together and see what's going on. You'll get the opportunity to send me some recorded coaching sessions, which I'll listen to privately and give you personal feedback on. So we'll do that a couple times throughout the 6 months, and then we'll do it at the end for certification. And then the other big piece is that you go through the spring Little School of Big Change course, the March course, I should say, and you kind of go through it. And as coaches, we have a couple meetings where we meet up and we talk about how the course is going. So we get to just use that as a classroom, basically, for how the course was created and how it runs. But bigger than that, the coaching that's happening there, what people are seeing, and the things we're up against in that. So there's always more, because there's a lot of little stuff. We have a private forum. We're always in contact, as much or as little in some cases as you want to be. So roughly time-wise, it's the 3 retreats every other month. And then it's about every other week we'll have something. But again, we have a private forum. So people are always, you're out talking with people, starting to practice what you're learning, starting to share this with people. You come on the forum if you have a question. If you say, oh, this happened in my practice session today, what do I do? You have me and a bunch of other people giving feedback. you have a question about setting up a business, something like that. We have a really, beautiful container in that forum to kind of get everything answered and just have as much back and forth as we need. So the other kind of piece of that, of the training, is the business building workshop. So what I've done historically is there's a day about 2/3 through. It's like 4-hour chunk on a Friday. Everything's recorded too, by the way. So if you can't make things live, you can always catch up, and I'm happy to meet with you and kind of catch you up if you have to miss something. But we do a half-day kind of business building workshop. So in there, again, it's about 2/3 of the way through the course. So we've been around this together for a bit. You have some ideas about things you want to do. Maybe you already know who you want to coach and that type of stuff. I walk you through everything I did in starting my business. You do not have to do it the way I did it, but it's a really great kind of model to just show what it looks like. And again, you're seeing this kind of throughout the whole course because we're talking so much, but it's a great model to just see what it looks like for someone who's never coached a day in their life, just got out of training, to really kind of building something gradually, slowly, sometimes a little more quickly over the years, and it tends to give people a lot of ideas. They just think, oh, I never thought I could do that. Or, just seeing someone else's path, I think, is so helpful. So in that, it's not all about me. I just share my story, but then we just do a lot of coaching. You guys share what's on your mind, what ideas, we brainstorm for each other. We really kind of get you in a place where you can see a little bit of how a business might look for you, if that's what you want to do with this training. So, so that's how it's typically gone. It's not a marketing heavy course. It's about you deepening in this beautiful, simple understanding so that you can support people in the best, most effective way that there is. Really, like the best way I think that exists on this planet to help someone feel their own freedom. This conversation, this understanding is it. And so that's where we focus. Now, and a lot of coach trainings are not that. A lot of other coach trainings, I think, spend a lot of time on the marketing and the business and all of that, and not so much on becoming a good coach. And I'll tell you why I do it the other way, because when we have the kind of impact that we have with this conversation, it does your marketing for you. Now, you still do other things. You still get out in the world. You still talk with people. You still share what you've seen in a more public way. You still ask for referrals, if that makes sense. But I can't say enough that, I mean, if you had to pick one thing, if you had all the fancy marketing in the world, or you had this understanding to come from that went as deep as this goes and helped people as completely as this helps people, it's a no-brainer. It's not, and they're not even in the same universe. So if you were on the other webinar I did, there are people like Jennifer who was there, who doesn't have a website, never sent out an email, like has no list, has never done a marketing activity in her life, but has a full practice because she helps people. And the people in those people's lives have said, what'd you do? Who you been talking to? Give me that person's phone number, and that's how it can go. That's how it goes when we're in this conversation a lot. So that's why I focus there. And the business piece comes a little separate. Now, because of all the questions about the business piece, you probably saw that I have added on a bonus, I guess, if you want to put it that way, to the 2021 course that is all about the business side. So we're still going to go through January through May, focused mostly on becoming an amazing coach and getting a ton of practice in that. But then in June, there's a special kind of business building add-on. So in June, what will happen is I've kind of assembled some people, Dror and Nipper, who both work on my team. Dror's been consulting in online marketing and for small businesses for 25 years. Nipper is an amazing project manager. She manages my whole business, basically, does all the ins and outs of all of that. They're going to do calls with you guys, and they're going to kind of just, help you see exactly how this can look. You're going to come away with a resource sheet that says, here's how you set up your accounting. Here's where you go if you need an initial website. here's where you do the legal things, like just all the basics if you're new at this, to just get you going right off the bat. I'm also bringing in Michelle Franco, who is a change coach, who wrote a book called Beyond Applause. And she helps people craft like TED Talks and kind of like their signature talk. And what I love about Michelle and what she's going to bring and add is she's really into like let's look at you and what you've seen in your life, because you might have heard the saying, like, your mess is your message. You know, what we've been through, and it doesn't mean that we have to be super personal all the time, but what we've seen, each of us, and what we've been through in life, no question is what allows us. I mean, we're going to have so much leverage and so much authenticity when we speak from that place. Plus, it kind of helps you see, oh yeah, it wasn't all for nothing. All my suffering and my years of whatever, wow, look at how that's all helping people now. So she helps people kind of craft that, and that's going to be great. So in June, we dive deep. After we've done the whole coach training, we dive deep into the business side of things. Part of that, I can share the details at a later time, but part of that is you get a personal consultation to look at where you want to go with your business, your ideas, some things you can put into place. So it's really amazing. Once you're a certified coach, you will have a listing on my website, and you'll get some referrals and some traffic that way. And, you know, like I mentioned, like we were saying, joking with Dave in the beginning, it's kind of the beginning. Like when we finish this training, it's kind of the beginning of, like it or not, you're in our family. We have our hooks in you. And I do quarterly calls with all the certified coaches where I'm always there mentoring you and supporting you for anything you need. And a lot of the coaches, I know Dave is part of a mastermind group. So a lot of times the coaches at the end of the training, they want to stay in touch, but maybe in smaller groups. And so many of them have branched off and formed groups of 4 or 5 coaches who are in maybe a similar place in their business. And they have weekly or biweekly calls or whatever they do to support each other and to stay in touch and to give each other referrals and business ideas and all of that. So there's so much that happens after the training even ends. And I just want to stress that, you know, it's not the kind of thing where we just learn a bunch of stuff for 6 months, then you never see us again. You're part of the Little School Big Change community for a year for free, for life if you want to be, but we give you a year membership for free. Really where my business is going is a lot of collaboration with my coaches. So this next year is going to be all about creating a ton of digital courses and products and stuff on my end. And I don't want to do that by myself. I can do it better with you guys. So finding coaches that you know, know a lot about certain areas or love to coach certain kinds of people and creating things with you. So it really is a beginning. Yeah. That has a lot of opportunities at the end of it. So that's a little bit about just the format of the training. I'm sure I'm missing some stuff, but let me pause there. I want to speak a bit about some of these questions and go to your questions, but let me see if there's any like logistical questions about the training or anything I just mentioned. We can take those now. Tammy?
Okay. Hey, I raised my hand early just so I could get in the queue because I have to leave a little bit before 4 o'clock. So Amy, thank you first of all for doing this. I know it's a lot of your time, but I know people have questions, so thank you. I have 2 questions, so I'll ask them both, and then you'd figure out what's the best order to answer in. Okay. You mentioned that we would do coaching sessions, and you could then review those and give us feedback on that sort of thing. So my first question is, for these coaching sessions, and I'm probably not remembering correctly, would there be sessions we might do with practicing with each other? Or are we supposed to go find these people ourselves? Or are these people you have in mind that you might tell in advance, these are students, that kind of thing? So that's question 1. Then the second question, I think I've asked before, so forgive me if I'm asking again. But I know a lot of people come to your program with more habits or neuroses. That may not be the right word, but like anxiety and things like that. Mm-hmm. What about just people who are looking for more mundane things like direction in life and things like that? How would this, if I wanted to be that kind of coach, how would this help? So both of those questions.
Okay, excellent. I'll just answer them both in order. What was the first question? Oh, the clients. So yeah, so it's
practice
the practice
clients.
clients, right? It's all of the above of what you said. So I encourage everyone in the beginning of the training to start thinking about, people you might know, friends, thinking of ways like even like your own platforms, your own Facebook groups, things like that, to kind of start letting people know, hey, I do this work. And especially now for the next 6 months, I'm doing it for free and I'm looking for people. I think it's just great practice to start doing that. So I'm always encouraging that. And a lot of people do find a lot of their own people to coach that way. We also, of the 25 or so people who are in the training, we also pair up and have coaching buddies. So if you can't find anyone and you're talking with your coaching buddy, you can send me that conversation and I'll give you feedback on that. So you will have someone to coach no matter what, but I encourage you to look out. And also, last time I did this, and I anticipate doing it this time, about partway through the training, I've opened up to my list and said, hey, it worked out last time because it was right when lockdowns were happening. So I said, I know people need support right now. I have a bunch of coaches in training. Would you like a free coaching session? And the response was astronomical. Like everyone got like three clients at least. And I even let some of my old coaches come in who weren't in the training and take some of those free clients. So there was a ton of response. So I plan to probably do that again this time, where you can definitely get some clients that way. And that's really, doing that is super helpful because a lot of those transitioned into paid clients for a lot of my coaches. They would do the 1 or 2 free sessions, but then, as their training was done, or even during the training, they said, okay, here's my price. And those people, stayed on as clients with them. So that's the first question. Great question. It's all of the above. What was your second question?
The types of issues people have, like
yes,
habits versus just regular stuff.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to who was in this last group. For sure, a lot of people who are drawn, if you're drawn to coaching people around eating disorders or anxiety, I think this is just the obvious training to take, but that was definitely not everyone. I had parenting coaches, relationship coaches, public speaking coaches, as I've mentioned, people who work with money and finance, help people around their mind around money, just general life coaches, which is kind of what you're asking about, I think, and a whole bunch of people who don't have any clue, which is great too. Really, like most new coaches, and I certainly was in this camp, I had some ideas just because of what I had been through in my own life at that point, but mostly you won't, and I know you're not a brand new coach, but for people who are, mostly you don't know, and that's okay, because we just get in these conversations, we see that all the issues are really the same at the core anyway. You see that this same understanding can help anyone with anything, really. It really, really can. Then it's just this fun game of just seeing what you're called toward, seeing who shows up for you and, sort of figuring out as you go.
And okay, so just one last little piggyback because you triggered another question. When you say, and I agree with you, when you say in the end, it's kind of all just the same, and it just kind of, I'm adding on, pops out, shows up in different ways in people's lives. How do you, this is maybe too much to answer on this question, but how do you funnel, funnel's not the right word, but how do you get the folks there? I mean, you're just using the same methods, the same kind of weaving, getting there and getting there and getting there?
When you say getting there, do you mean getting them to their own freedom?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. There's no way, the way is, there is a way, I suppose, but the way is showing up with this human being and being insanely curious about what they're making of what's going on in their heads. It could be what they're making of what's going on in their heads around just being fired or having anxiety, panic attacks for 20 years or anything. I want to know when I'm with a person, like I am just so insanely curious about, how does life look to you? How is it that you're stuck? Because stuck is no one's nature. Suffering is no one's nature. Now it's normal. It's normal for humans, right? We all get there in our own heads, but it's not natural. So you're like insanely curious of like, oh, why are you suffering so much around this thing? What's going on there? I'm not saying these are the questions you ask, but from that place of curiosity, you're looking at, wow, what's their model of the world? Where are their misunderstandings? And if they're suffering, there's a ton of them. And they're usually pretty easy to spot, especially once we get in this dance of spotting them.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah. So it's like all roads lead to the same place, 100%. But all roads are also going to look different because you don't know where the conversation is going to go. That's what makes this, I think, just so fun and really easy in a lot of ways. You know, when I first started coaching, I would want all this background and intake, and I'd try to predict where they were going and where they were stuck. And it was a mess because I wasn't there with my client. I was in all my research, which had nothing to do with my client. My research was just my research, told me nothing about this person. So this kind of way of coaching is the complete opposite of that. You don't need any information. You just know they're human. And then you sit down with them and you're curious. And you've seen a lot. So throughout the process, you know, and you see more as you do more. So it just naturally leads you into like what questions to ask and what to uncover and which layers to peel back to kind of help them get there.
Okay, that was great. Thank you. That was
Yeah.
great.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks.
Amy,
And Susan's asking in the chat, what day of the week are the 3-day workshops? And they're a Friday, Saturday, and then we usually do about a Thursday, Friday, and usually about a half day on the Saturday. So they're at the end of January, March, and May, and it'd be like 9 to 5 Eastern time. So for Europeans, it's going to be kind of later in the day. It'll start around 2 o'clock your time, and they go till about 9 or 10. For Pacific time zone people, they're going to be pretty early in the morning. But yeah, they're a full day kind of on the Thursday and Friday, then a half day Saturday. Did you have something else, Dave, or were you just pointing that question?
I wanted to talk to Tammy real quick just to let her know that every 2 seconds someone Googles some sort of anxiety or depression or something on Google, and it was the searches last month on anxiety or anything around disorders or depression was 4 million last month.
Wow. Good to know, and not good that people are that interested in anxiety. Okay, so let me say a little bit briefly, because I want to hear these questions kind of as they are for you. But I just want to say a tiny bit about the business question and then the I need to be a student longer question. So on the business side of things, I think it's just the most human, natural, normal thing in the world that we look at something that looks big that we've never done before and think, I don't know how to do that. And first of all, of course you don't. No one comes out of the womb knowing how to start a business, right? Like no one even is, you know, at any point in your life knowing how, like, here's how you start a business, because it just, in my experience anyway, it just doesn't work that way. It's so similar to the kind of coaching we do. It's like we don't sit in front of a person and know how we're going to get them to freedom, but we sit in front of a person knowing what's true for that person, deeply knowing what is true for them. And then we take steps with them along the way and things start revealing themselves. Growing a business, and the way I've done it, at least in my experience, is exactly the same. I still don't know how to grow or run or start a business, but I know how to do one thing. You know, I know how to like show up and share something. I know how to, and we all know how to pick something that has impacted us and talk about it, or tell one person, or create one page of a simple little one-page website and share it with 10 people, or, you know, make a video or do some recording or call someone you know and say, hey, here's what I do now. That is how a business grows. I cannot say enough how simple it is. And your mind won't let that in because a business feels so big, and especially one that's supporting you. And there's no question in my mind, absolutely no question, that every one of you can make an amazing living doing this work. I mean, this is the most in-demand work in the world, and we have the best way in the world to do it. It's like the one thing everyone in the world wants is peace of mind. And I mean, I know I'm biased in this, but I just can't see it any other way. Like, we know peace of mind. When you know this understanding, you get it. You see that people have this already. You're not out running them around telling them 50 things to do or 10 steps or do this and check back in. They're deep conversations that start to really resonate and wake things up in people. So I think if you're looking for a career where it's like a guaranteed giant potential client pool and a always there need and a huge demand and relatively few people able to serve that demand, this is it. It doesn't get any better than this. So in terms of actually doing it, again, when our mind jumps ahead, it just looks hard and we've never done it, so we don't know. And that can look and feel so real. But, and again, this might be kind of my bias because I'm very risk averse and this is how I like to do things. But for me, it was like I just kind of bootstrapped my whole way through it. And I still am. I was really touched by something and I just started talking about it. And the thing is, you'll start talking about it in whatever way you want. Again, one-to-one, online, like in public ways and more private ways, doesn't matter. And what will happen, I'll tell you right now, 100%, it will look like nothing's working. You'll say, well, where are the people? How come, this person got 50,000 views on their video and I got 2? Like, it's not working. And that's what 90%, 95% probably of people, that's where they just drop out. They say, oh, it's not working. I need to hire an expert who knows how to make a better video because only 10 people watched mine. No, you're just new. You're just not there yet. You just pick a few things and you do them and you do them and you do them. And I 100% promise you that through that process, like, stuff happens, but we do have to be a little patient. So, and consistent, I think. And you're tweaking and you're getting better at your message and all of that along the way. You're learning along the way. I didn't pay anyone to do anything for me for probably 4 years. Now, that was, I probably could have a little earlier, but it's not like you need to go out and hire a team. I mean, now I have a real team that I love so much, and they've only been around for a year. I've been paying people to help me for longer than a year, but you just grow into this stuff if that's how you want to do it. Now, if you have a huge, savings and you want to start off strong, please do. That's amazing. But I just want you to know you don't have to. So you don't have to kind of have the expectation that you're going to be, making 6 figures as a coach in your first year. But if you love what you're doing and you don't need that right off the bat, and you can keep honing your craft and keep honing your message and just keep doing it until you hit that tipping point, you'll hit a tipping point and you'll see and learn so much along the way. And then it gets easier because then you have a little money to hire someone or have someone help you with this or make this part better. But I don't know, to me, it's just so obvious of just kind of stumbling your way through it. And it's fun. Like, that's, again, sort of the adventure in what we're doing. It's a lot more fun when it's easy and when it's going well. But, I've had times very recently where I've thought, this is so easy and I don't even know if some of the stuff I'm doing is working. But when I really step back and look at that, it's like, well, maybe it isn't. But I didn't come here. I see something I want to share with the world, and I know you guys do too. And especially as you get more into this, I'm not going to just sit around and not talk about it because I'm not sure if it's working. Whether it works or not, this is the thing we're here to do. So we can talk more about, and you let me know what the questions sound like in your head. We can talk more about the specifics and the details of that, but please know that everyone thinks the business piece is hard, or I don't know if I can do that. Not everyone. I know some of you don't, and that's awesome. But it's very, very common. And it's just like my kid thinking, how do you drive a car? How do you know where to get places? Well, you don't when you're 9. But by the time you're 16 and you're driving a car, you just figure it out as you go. Same with coaching, same with business building. So, so the other question was around, I'm not introverted or extroverted enough. I'm not introverted enough. I'm too old. I'm too young, or I think I need to be a student longer. And again, if some of you have that question and want to speak to it, I'd love to kind of look at that more, because I'm not sure what that means. Really, it means something different for everyone who's saying it, right? But to the I'm not enough, or I'm too this, or not enough that, it's not about us. This is what is so amazing about this way of coaching. We are looking in a direction of something that is universal, that is deeper than any trait, any personality characteristic, way deeper than what you got your college degree in, or whether you have a college degree or not. Doesn't matter. It's just, it's big. It's like bigger doesn't really do it justice. It's totally, again, totally different ballpark than all of those little personality traits and this is my background and all of that stuff. When we look in this direction and when we point people in this direction, really, really, really good things happen. And that has nothing to do with you. So Sid Banks always said, apparently all of my teachers that talk about Sid encouraging them when it came to sharing this, he would always say, you know, they would say things like, we all have these concerns of, but I'm not you. Of course you're not. They're not Sid, right? But, or I can't say it the way you can, or I just don't think I'm ready yet, or I still get caught up at times, you know, who am I to go help someone? All of those questions. And his response was always something along the lines of like, none of that matters. You just go share what you have seen. If you've seen one thing, if there's one little thing where you think, oh, I think my mind just talks a lot, but I'm not it. Do you know how much that can help people? Like that, just that alone is so much more helpful than what a lot of people are doing in the world, you know, and no disrespect to them. They're doing the best they can see to do. But all we have to do is have seen anything. And the more we tap into that and share it, it grows in us enormously so. It grows in us. That's how we see more, is by sharing it. And it helps other people. Our one little thing. Then maybe along the line, you see other things, you will. And then you get to speak to kind of different, bigger issues, you know, a little broader stuff. But I mean, all of my, like Mark Howard, he does a webinar for us in the training. And he talks about that all the time. He had gone to one Sid workshop and all he saw was we feel our thinking. And he went back to his psychotherapy practice and said, hey, I can't do what I used to do, but I'm going to tell you, we feel our thinking. And he said that for like months. And that's all he knew. That's all he knew. But in that, people heard something different and he could just explore it. And then he saw more and more and more. So again, see how in some ways, as I talk about it now, it's becoming so obvious that these two issues and probably all of our questions and concerns about the business or I'm not ready or whatever, they're the same thing, same things going on. It's that we have a bunch of thinking about stuff that looks important, looks like it's in the way. And it's actually really not. When we just come right here to what makes sense right now, what we know today, what occurs to us to do right now, and let that grow, we grow with it. That's how we see more, is we take a step and then we see more. Then we take another step. We talk to another free client. Then we see more. Then we talk to another client. Maybe they pay us $20. Then we see more. Then we're like, whoa, I'm learning so much. Then we do this in our business. It gets no attention. Then we do it again and again and again. And maybe one day it gets some attention. It will if you do it enough. And we just step through this moment by moment. And that's how we grow. So again, I know sometimes people really legitimately feel like, no, I'm super caught up in my habit or I'm not ready to coach. And I respect that. If that's how you really deeply feel and you don't think it's about fear or being caught up in thought, then take your time for sure. But most of the people I talk with aren't in that camp. They've seen something, but in their mind is telling them it's not enough and they need to be good first. And you know, and it's kind of like, well, we're not brain surgeons. Like if you're going to open someone's skull and do brain surgery, please know what you're doing 100% before you do that. But when we're talking about having a human to human conversation, we deepen by doing it. And that's why we coach for free. That's why we coach for free during the training. And if you want beyond the training, although most people are ready to charge when they leave the training, you know, you just feel your way through and that's how we learn. That for me, I know I've talked with some of you recently about this, but people ask, Dave asked me a lot, like, who was your mentors and what are you learning from? And honestly, like talking with people, coaching people is how I've seen so much, because you're in this place where you can see them caught up, and we see things for other people we don't see for ourselves. So you might feel like you're a mess some days or some weeks, but I promise you, you sit in front of another person, you all know this already, you see things for them because they're not you. You don't have the same thinking there. And in your push to kind of get them to see more themselves, you see it, and then you realize, oh yeah, that applies to me too. And it all is just this, yeah, real life, real time way of like, that's how we become a student, is we get in the conversation of sharing this. It's the best way to be a student. Okay, so I'm going to quit talking for a minute, and let me know, raise your hand, ask any questions you have about anything I've said or anything I haven't said. Rebecca.
Hi.
Hi.
I don't know if this is a question or a comment, or, a lot of what I've dealt with money issues all my life and never feeling worthy enough to make any kind of decent income. And so my best friend, who thinks that you're a cult or a pyramid scheme, and has noticed a change in me, by the way. She did mention not that long ago that says, I've noticed you're happier. And part of the agreement that we had when I first discovered you months ago was to not talk about you or the parent, the understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And that she said, when I notice a difference, I'll say something. And she did. So I went and visited over this weekend, and the feedback that I'm getting from her too is, I kind of alluded, all right, well, I am going to be spending some more money with you. And, I'm glad that you think that I've changed, but I'm going to go deeper. So I'm going to be spending more money. And I get that, here we go again. In that, a lot of my patterns, a lot of my past, a lot of the failed relationships that I've had have always been about money and losing money on schemes that never benefited me. Now, I'm getting upset, but I know deeply that I'm heading in the right direction with you. But how do I convince others? How do I make them see that what I'm about to embark on is a good thing?
Why do you have to?
That's kind of part of what I was thinking on the drive home, because I had to drive to see her, that, part of me feels like I don't have to explain things to her anymore.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want to be her friend or anything like that, but that I don't have to justify what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So where I also kind of feel like this is where I'm benefiting from what I have been through, and why I do feel like going forward with this is going to be nothing but good.
Yeah.
For me, an investment in me. I guess I just still worry. I still have those thoughts around, like, how's my brother going to see this when I talk to him about it? Or,
Yeah.
how do I even talk about it with other people? Or I guess, do I even need to?
Yeah. It's a good question. I mean, it's another place, like all of life, I think, where we feel our way through. You certainly don't, from where I sit, you don't owe anyone a explanation, or you don't have to convince anyone of anything, and probably don't try, because people are going to see things the way they see them, but just for like kind of what you're going through, I'm more curious about like, your suffering's coming from your thinking, right? Of like, I need to convince them. And what if they're right? Even though I know you kind of know that it's not, but there's still this desire to like get everyone on board and have everyone see it. And so if we were having a coaching session, and we will through the training, if you want, as much as you want to around this or other things, that's what's going on. That's where your suffering is coming from, not what other people think, but how it feels like that's important and you need that in some way. In my experience, when something is new to someone, they do react exactly like that, because they love you. They're skeptical, and and, you know, as they should be. Like, people are skeptical about things they don't, I mean, maybe they shouldn't be, but they're skeptical about things they don't know anything about, but it's because they care about you, because they love you. And as you keep just deepening and getting more comfortable in it, it's going to be obvious to them that you're okay. And it's going to be obvious to you more and more, I think, that you don't have to bring anyone on board. And that is typically when people come on board. So when we're trying to say like, no, really, this is what it is and it's okay, that doesn't, you know, it's a lot of energy on everybody's part.
Right.
But when you're just living what feels right to you, as you are in really big ways right now, they keep saying, hey, we're seeing something. And then eventually there's no conversation, you know, it changes.
So really the best thing right now is just to not talk about it. So,
Well, do whatever feels right to you,
Right.
but you
Right.
don't have to talk about it. You don't owe them anything, you know, I mean, it's your people in your life, but
Yeah.
yeah. When I first, and I know I talked about this on the other webinar, when I first started this, I mean, everyone thought I was insane. Like, what do you, I was supposed to, you know, be a professional and I was going to be a coach. And again, coaches were not viewed the way they are now. But back then it was like, what is coaching? What is this thing? And it was so big in my consciousness for a long time. What do people think? And what will I say when they ask? And how will I explain it? And I honestly, I just kept doing it because I knew it felt right to me. And I didn't know how to answer those questions. But one day I woke up and it just wasn't big in my consciousness anymore. I just knew I was doing what I was doing. And I didn't even really notice people asking. And if people did ask, like, well, what's that? Or what are you doing? I didn't see skepticism in them. I just saw it differently. And I'd be like, oh, this is what coaching is. It's really great. And that usually just shut the conversation down. But
Yeah.
again, it's when we get to that place, you know what I mean? Where we're just living it and it.
Yeah. And I think that's where I'm still stuck. And that was another question I'd written down, that how do I know that I'm not heading towards this fantasy in my head, which I kind of feel like, again, comparing it to those past relationships that always ended badly emotionally and financially. Part of me, I guess, is still struggling with that. Okay, you're heading towards this other fantasy where everything's going to be great and you're, you know, doing work that you actually love versus this other crap job. How do I know I'm not heading toward that? I mean, I kind of know that I'm not, but I guess that's where I'm stuck in that. I know this feels right.
Yeah.
But I'm not living it yet, I guess, is what I'm stuck in. Or
so how do you know what? That it's not going to end horribly?
yeah.
I don't know how anything's going to end. I don't know that it's not going to end horribly
Yeah.
for me either.
I mean,
We don't know the
I
ending.
understand that that's, you know, that's my brain talking. That's, you know, and I want to mention too that part of what I have been enjoying about all this is that I don't know what's coming in the future. Whereas in the past, that would have been something that would have shut me down completely. Like, you know, what do you mean you're talking about actually getting out of that job you have right now? Because one of the things I loved about that job was the stability of it. And, you know, I always knew I was going to have an income. And, you know, I just can't even explain how much I just don't even want to go to work anymore.
Yeah. And moves like that, man, our mind thinks that it knows what's best. It tells us how things have gone so far, you know, what's important. You find a stable job, has security, doesn't matter that much if you love it, as long as you get a paycheck every week. Like, and when we start to grow past those old stories and all that old conditioning and actually be happy and do things that feel right to us, it's not always easy. It's exactly what you're describing, you know, it's a lot of that, and I know it's a big leap for you. I know a lot of that is not too far in the past, you know, and you're really seeing a lot in the last 6 months or so. But so I don't know. I can't tell you how it'll end or how you can know that it won't end any particular way. But it's what you said. You can see that something feels right and your mind is just talking a mile a minute, scaring the crap out of you. About stuff, you know, and that's what mine's do. It really is. Mine too. Whenever I make a big investment in my business or a big leap, I just get bombarded with the exact same stuff. We just kind of come to know, oh yeah, that is what my mind would do right now. And I don't know the answer, but I'm doing what makes sense and feels right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for asking this. I think it's, I'm sure it's helping a lot of people. Thanks. RJ.
Hi, Amy.
Hi, how are you?
I'm just fine. Thank you. I wanted to say thank you for hosting this and thank you for all that you share with no judgment.
Oh, thank you.
Refreshing.
Thanks.
I actually had a couple business related questions. Go through the training, assuming you get certified by you and your group. Roughly, can you answer how many referrals you are giving to your certified coaches, say monthly, 6 months, year?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I'd have to kind of do a little research to look into that. But I can say that there are, I think maybe about 20 certified coaches right now on the directory. So there'll be another group in July when this next training gets certified. And I know that we're doing, like, I just got a new website. We're doing so much to like bring a lot of traffic there. And I don't do, as I've probably mentioned before, I don't do any private coaching anymore.
Right.
So I tend to kind of, even more than through the website, when people come to me for private coaching, I kind of just have a feeling about who would be a good coach for them and send them their way. So for me, I get probably 10 to 15 requests a month, 10 to 15 a month, where I'm saying, sorry, I don't do private coaching, but maybe check out this coach or check out the coaching directory. That's just kind of what comes through my inbox. But yeah, I'm sure there's more than that.
Well, thank you. That answers that question for me. So I actually think that was the only question. I'm just busy listening to everyone else's. So thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, there's so many opportunities, even beyond the listing and stuff. There's different ways to kind of partner together, and you get to know the other coaches. And that's what's great too, is people kind of know, oh, I think RJ would be a good fit for this guy, and maybe I'm not as good of a fit for them, or somebody in their family that they don't want to coach, so they send them to other people. So there's a lot that's sort of, not tangible, that we can't keep track of as much, but I know a lot of that's happening.
Great information.
Good. Thanks. Let's see. Okay. If I'm already a coach and have been charging for sessions, can I not use my current clients and use your students to offer free sessions too? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, whenever people come into the training, we're all just trainees together. Some of you, yes, have been coaching. Some people have been therapists or counselors or coaches for decades and want to learn more about this understanding. Others, the majority, never a day in their life, but we're all just kind of starting from square one together. So everything is available to everyone. You can do whatever makes sense to you. Another question in the chat. What if I have to convince a spouse, though, that this is a worthwhile investment if he doesn't believe in coaching or therapy of any sort? And what if I can't attend on Saturdays for religious reasons? Yeah, so the convincing, I mean, I don't want to tell you what to tell your husband. I don't know. But again, kind of to Rebecca's question, and I only say that because that's a issue in your relationship, and I can't say what to say around that. But I do find that, I think when something feels right to us, people notice that. People who love us get on board with that. I mean, people don't, like, your husband doesn't have to believe in coaching or therapy. It's not like my husband's never read a book that I've written or listened to a podcast episode. He has no idea what I do up in this room all day. And who cares? Because he sees that I'm happy, and, he doesn't need to believe in it or agree with it or anything like that. And again, I know every relationship's different. I'm just saying, if something's important to you, that's what matters. It's important to you. When we kind of feel like we need to convince other people or sell them on what we're doing, especially you guys, like when we haven't done it yet, when we're just at this stage of like, maybe I want to get training in this. Oh my gosh, we can't do that. How could we really sell it when we're just sort of babies at it ourselves, And so I think that's where you go, is it's like, hey, this feels right to me. It's important to me. And you move forward if that's true. And yes, around the Saturdays. So there are only 3 Saturdays of the 6 months where we have anything. All of our webinars and all of that are always during the week. But on those Saturdays, 100%, everything's recorded. So what would happen is and this has happened for other people for other reasons, you catch up on the recordings as soon as you can, and then you and I chat. And we'll chat as long and as much as you need to make sure that once you've kind of caught up with what the group did on that Saturday portion that you couldn't make, if you have questions, things you would have asked in real time, things you want to go deeper in, we just talk and we get you there. So it might feel like you're missing out on a big chunk, but I think in the end of the day, I look back last year and some people had medical issues or things come up and they had to miss, good portions of days. And at the end of the training, it was never like, oh, I wish I hadn't missed that one day. We just roll with it and keep up to speed. Patricia.
Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Great. I'm so excited for this. My question is, I have never coached as a trade. I'm a librarian. So I do talk to people, though. Sometimes they say it's like social services when they come in here because there's a lot of communication other than books. So are there going to be a lot of other people who have nothing, like a background like myself, like where they have never coached, or a lot of people therapists already? Because that's something that I just thought, like I just got triggered with that question.
Yeah, no, it's you are definitely in the majority. It's I want to say maybe 2/3 never coached at all.
Okay.
Maybe 1/3 have a little bit, or some of them have more extensive background, but most people have never.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Can't wait.
Yay. Okay, if you have questions, go ahead and raise your hand. Let me look at the chat here. So my husband's used to me jumping in from thing to thing. He's on board. Maybe this isn't a question. Okay. Yeah, that's just a comment to the other one. Sorry. In other coaching programs, there seem to be different techniques or tools that are taught in practice to use with clients to help them retain focus and practice in between sessions. Are there similar tools offered here? And if not, could you speak to why this may not be helpful? Well, in this way of supporting people, there's just nothing that we need to practice. So every coach does things differently. Every coach sees things slightly differently. Nothing is off limits for sure, especially early on. It's not uncommon at all that coaches might have this conversation, that you become very well trained to have this back and forth conversation where you're peeling back the layers, showing them what's made of thought, pointing to who they are. And then afterward, in between that session and your next session, you say, watch this video and then we'll talk about it at the beginning of next time we meet. Or maybe read this book or read this blog post and let me know what you think. There's nothing wrong with anything we want to do, but typically it's more along the lines of that than, as you say, techniques or tools to help them retain focus and practice. There's just nothing we'd be practicing for. What we're doing is looking at who and what we already are. We all need to practice who and what we already are. We just need to remove the blinders in the way of it. So it's a completely flipped. That's what makes this paradigm amazing. This is why this is so helpful, is we're not adding anything for people. There's nothing added. There's nothing like you need to learn this, or you need to do this, or even you need to see this. It's you have what you need, and you as the coach come to deeply know this. Now, again, as I say it, I know in our minds, we're like, oh, is that true though? Do I know that? Well, this is what the training does, is the training shows us that this is the truth of all people. And so it's peeling back, it's subtractive, it's not additive. So there would be nothing that we have to add or have them work on or focus on or anything like that. I hope that's helpful. If you have follow-up questions from that, please let me know, because I'm not sure if that captures that. And you guys can put them in the chat if you want to raise your hand. It's great to talk, but feel free to use the chat. Let me know if you have any, if that answered your question or if you have any follow-ups. But again, let me just say on that, you know, tools, there's nothing wrong. Like you become empowered to do anything that makes sense to you to do. It's just that in general, the more we see about what a person, what all people have available to them and what they're caught up in, which is simply thought that looks real, it tends to just feel right, be easiest for sure, and make a lot of sense to just have a conversation about it. Again, a conversation where we as coaches are like we're like 2-year-olds. We're like, oh, tell me what you're thinking. What is that like for you? What does that feel like? Like I'm holding myself back from doing that with Rebecca when she's getting emotional. Like we get excited about this stuff. It's just not the time or place, Rebecca, to have a 1-hour, you know, talk. But we're like, oh, I know she's seeing something that looks so real to her, that's so old and conditioned. And it's invisible to her at the moment. And I'm not really, it's becoming visible to her and she's feeling all the feels that come with that. But that's what we do. We're like kids and it's so fun. Or like, ooh, how does that look to you? And tell me about it. And then in that dance, we just help them see around what looks like a big, true obstacle. Okay, Chris says, what are your thoughts on going to college to get a psychology degree or doing a program like yours? Seems like this is the way of now and the future. I mean, if you want to get a degree, for anyone, if you want to study psychology formally, if you want to get a degree, go for it, but you absolutely don't need it to do this work. And I would not even say that it's necessarily helpful in order to do this. Like I wouldn't even say, oh, it's a nice to have, but it's not a need. I'm not sure it's an even nice to have. Again, if you're pulled toward it and you love it, go for it. If it were, I think about this all the time, if it were my kids, and especially as you say, Chris, like, and now, you know, in these times and as expensive as universities are, and as much as we have available to us, people from all over the world who can train in ways like this online and share their expertise, I wouldn't be pointing anyone necessarily toward that path unless it was really exciting to them already. If my kid said, hey, I want to be a change coach, which is like my dream, they may not, it's okay. But I would say, okay, kid, pull your chair in here. And when we're going to do this online, there's a million places, a million people who are amazing experts at what they do, and we can do things this way. And as I think you're alluding to, you know, from our client's perspective, the need for a degree or even a certification. I mean, I give you a cute little badge and you're certified, but clients don't care. We care. We like it. Clients don't care. They just want to know that you can help them. That's all they care about. That's why this way of kind of starting a business in some of the ways that I've done it or that we talk about here is so powerful, because what we're doing is getting out there and helping people even before they pay us. And that shows them that we care, that we've seen something that can help them, you know, and that's what makes them like, ooh, where do I sign up? Instead of us having to do something that feels like a sales job, which is, no offense to salespeople, I wouldn't want to do it. It's, you know, it reverses things. When you put out and support people and help people in the ways you can for free, asking nothing in return, a portion of those people every single time are going to want more, and they're willing to pay for it. And that's what pays your bills while you help more people. I mean, it's sort of a amazing system in that way. Okay. I've been sponsoring people in 12-step programs for years. Is that an impediment to this kind of coaching? No, I don't think so at all. In fact, it probably, you know, probably going to be helpful. You already know what it's like to have that sort of relationship where you're supporting someone. I don't think it's an impediment at all. You know, nothing is an impediment. This is just an opportunity to look in a direction of something that's super deep and true of all humans. So any kind of work anyone is doing, you only kind of tend to do it better when you have a bit of this foundation beneath it. So you could even continue to, you know, sponsor people in 12 steps and I think what this understanding does for people is it taps us into what's true. It allows us to see other people's health quickly and easily. It makes us more compassionate. It makes us more humble. So basically it just makes you a good helper, a better helper, however you're already helping people. Patricia says, how do we market to friends and family to get practice clients? Yeah, I mean, again, it's different things resonate with different people. I never would market to them, and I personally didn't really love coaching, especially family. I had some experiences where I said, yeah, I'm not going to coach mom anymore. That doesn't end so well. So you certainly, you certainly do not have to like go through your personal contacts and reach out to people and, try to do this. But I think the best way to do it is if you have people in mind who you think just might be open to a conversation. And truthfully, that's all this is. You don't even have to, you can tell them I'm doing some coach training, and you don't have to have what you tell them. You don't have to have a problem. We don't have to dig into the past or, and that is what's amazing about this. You don't have to like tell me all the bad things that happened in your childhood. Do you want to just have a conversation? And everybody's got some kind of thought that looks real to them. And you're going to be trained in spotting it. You'll just see it. You'll feel it. You'll feel it in their emotion, and you just chat about it. And what's awesome about these kind of conversations is, they're fun. Like sometimes they're serious. Sometimes they're very emotional. Sometimes you're laughing to death through the whole coaching session. Both of you are. And you're like, I can't believe I just got paid to do that. Sometimes it's just this exploration, Other times people come and say, my husband just served me divorce papers. What do I do? And it's a different kind of conversation. But either way, you're sitting there with someone, you see their health, and you don't have to fix anything for them. You can't change their circumstances. You don't have to have been through it. You just know how humans work. And so that makes for an amazing conversation where they get to see what they need. So I'm not answering your question anymore, Patricia, but you just think about who might be open to it, put it out super casually. It doesn't have to be like a therapy session or a coaching session, just a conversation. And that will give you enough to really get some practice. And again, sometimes people don't want to go there at all. And I understand that, and that's okay. So sometimes people say, I'm not putting this on my Facebook page. I'm not sending out a letter. Like when I did my coach training, they taught us to send a friends and family letter and say, hey, I'm doing this work now. If you know anyone. I never did that. Some people just don't want to do it, and it's okay. Especially now, there's so many ways to kind of go outside your inner circle if that feels more comfortable and start to talk to people that way. It might be former colleagues. It might be just people from my list that we open up to. That kind of grows from there. And remember too, you'll have a coaching buddy, and everyone in here knows people. So you're with a group of people who, we all tend to, if you're drawn to this work, you tend to know at least some people who are maybe would be interested or kind of interested in these types of topics. And so oftentimes, kind of along the lines of not wanting to coach family, a lot of the practice sessions last time were like somebody's brother or somebody like Suzanne didn't want to coach her own brother. So she gives TJ her brother to coach, and vice versa. So it's, there's a lot of opportunity like that too. Okay, let's go to Julie.
Hi, Amy. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Julie.
Just a quick question. So I have my own business doing something else, and I work from home, and I'm sort of wondering with the coach and the coach training, like something I'm always looking for is more community, because I'm not a solopreneur. I have a business and I have a business partner and all of that. But, I often think, gosh, if only I worked at a university where I'd have all these colleagues and I'd have all this collaboration. And so I just wondered what the school offers in terms of collaboration. I know you've answered some of this in this discussion already, but just any thoughts you have about that so I don't feel so lonely in my work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that's so, I've been hearing that so much, and especially in this past year too around this, but all the time with coaches and people like us who work from home, that want more of that. So kind of what's sort of built into the coach training is we spend the 6 months getting very close. And again, because we're kind of coaching each other and all of that, the group always ends and they're like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've known you guys forever. And then we meet every 3 months for the quarterly calls with me. So everyone's kind of staying a little bit in touch that way. You're also in the Little School of Big Change community for a year, as I mentioned, for free. So a lot of what happens is there as well. That's another place to have weekly calls. And it sounds different as a coach. I think being in that community, I think it's awesome either way, but being in that community just as a student who just finished the school versus as a coach, you can kind of feel how it'd be a really different experience. Now you sort of know how to do this a bit. You're just in it in a different way, and the community there kind of grows and gets closer. And as I mentioned, I facilitate this at the end. If people want to break off into smaller groups and stay connected that way, they do it. And then finally, I don't know if Drewer's still on the call, but he'll probably want me to mention this, that he's all over me to build out a coaches community, like a more formal coaches community. So I don't like to talk about stuff until it's a little further down the pipe, but it's 100% on our board of things to come, where there's more of like monthly we're having calls, and there's a built-in opportunity for people to just stay in touch just as coaches, kind of similar to what we have in the little school, but with a smaller group of coaches. So I don't know if that helps. That's not too concrete yet, but it's for sure coming.
No, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. The community piece is so big, obviously for all kinds of reasons for all of us, but I think early on, especially but when I say early on, I think even like in the first 2-3 years, if you are wanting to get more clients and stuff, there's just not enough that can be said about, I have had this myself, having a smaller group maybe of people where you say, hey, here's the kind of clients I love to work with. Here's the ideas. Here are the things I'm doing to kind of get the word out, and just getting feedback, getting other people's say, or we see for each other things just like in coaching that we can't see for ourselves. So we'll see that for our clients, but like when you're in a little mastermind group where they know you and they love you and they see your strengths, our mastermind group, the one that I'm in, does this for each other all the time. They just bring up things that we would never think of on our own. So I think it's really important, to have that, especially for a few years kind of after the training. Okay, Amy has a question in the chat. She says, could you give a guess as to a weekly time commitment, wondering if it's compatible with working full-time? Yes. So I think I want to say at least half, I'd probably say the majority of people who go through the training work full-time. Maybe I might be off on that. It's probably way more. But for sure, a lot of people work full-time and do this, and it works out. So the weekly commitment, I've been saying it's kind of 90 minutes. Again, the 3 days are little retreats. And then it's like every other week, we have a 90-minute webinar, call, whatever it might be. But then, you have your coaching buddy. So maybe some people do a session a week with their coaching buddy. Some people do a session a month. You're kind of having some conversations to practice what you're doing. But I want to say, I would guess that it would come out for the average person, 90 minutes to maybe a couple hours a week. And even in that, it's very flexible. So if you need to do less, if you have a chunk of time where you can do a lot more, and then you need to kind of, step back for a couple weeks, it's all set up just like the Little School of Big Change, that, it's all there for you and you get to kind of do it at your own pace. When we do go through the March course of the Little School of Big Change, we'll talk about it kind of as we get into it, but you don't have to be present for everything there. So I'm guessing I know that most of you have gone through that course, not all of you and not all the people that are in the training. But especially if you've gone through it, if you've gone through it recently, it's kind of more designed to just kind of pop in, like, you know, the lesson, you know, the curriculum, you just did it. So you don't have to worry about that. It's more about kind of popping in on the forum, popping into the calls, getting a feel for what people are struggling with and how we're supporting them, just enough so that when we come together as coaches to have our debrief calls around it, you have a sense of what's going on and we can talk about it. So you're not necessarily on every single Little School of Big Change call, although every time a handful of people are. You're invited to be, of course, you can do as much as you want, but just know that that's definitely not expected. What else? Any other questions? One question that I kept getting as well, and I think this has been a little touched upon here from your questions, is sort of, and this is one feels kind of weird to talk about, but I do feel like it's really important, is kind of just that investment piece. So there's two ways to kind of look at this. I mean, it is a big investment. I understand that of time and money and energy that, you know, you could put towards something else for the next 6 months. One way, if we're just looking at the financial side of things, it is an investment that, you know, again, not everyone, I know there's people signed up for the 2021 training that don't really know that they even want to coach. They just want to really dive into this. So not everyone wants to turn this into a coaching career, and that's totally fine. But if you do, or if you even want to just do it as a side gig for a while, or just do it here and there for a while, it is an investment that's going to pay off. So most coaches coach for free, and this is just in general, coach for free during the training, leave the training, coach, you know, charge maybe $50 a session, and also are doing some free coaching if it comes their way, if someone can't pay, just to keep practicing. But you're starting to make some money, and fairly early on, I mean, I think if you feel ready for it, I always tell the coaches when they leave, like, you can charge, you know, roughly $100 an hour. It's kind of the going rate for a coaching session. And when you get done with this training, you're good enough to do that. You've had enough practice. You've had a lot of feedback. You can charge that if you feel right charging it. Now it's a personal decision, but it doesn't take long for coaches to kind of be, you know, have a handful of clients that are paying $100 a session, or maybe you're doing a package that's $300 or $400 for like 5 or 6 sessions. And if you think about it like that, even if you just had a few of those a month, I mean, it's an investment that, if you want it to, if you stay consistent with the business stuff and you kind of take in, you know, all the feedback and work at it, it'll pay off financially. And then there's the real important piece, which is kind of the other side of that investment. And again, I know everybody's financial situation is different. I never tell anyone what to do with their money. I'll just say that for me, I don't like to spend money, but every time that I have invested in something like this, and I mean around this understanding, and not even a coach training, but something that just helps me feel more grounded and helps me see things in a clearer, simpler way. It's like any of the stuff I might buy for myself or my family or anyone is like nothing compared to what we get from an experience. And, you know, I mean, I think it's a common thing that when we invest in experiences, they stick with us much longer than stuff. And I was telling someone I was talking with about this the other day, that because she was saying, well, I just feel selfish. I have kids that are in high school and they might need my resources. And how am I going to spend this money on me? You know, and I so get that. I so get how a mind says that. And I can't say enough that for me, it just feels like this is the best thing I can do for my kids. And I don't mean this, meaning this coach training, but like this understanding, my own peace of mind, my own groundedness. There's no question it's the best thing I can do for my whole family and everyone around us, you know. And I just think it's not something to underestimate. And it's easy to underestimate because it's not tangible. So our mind will just blank it right out. But really, what's more important than how we feel to any of us? Nothing. The whole reason we want to buy anything is because we think it's going to feel good. So it's not just for you. That's really what I want to say in that. It's not just for you. Everyone in your life notices, everyone in your life benefits. The better you feel and the more you have to give. What other questions? Let me see. Oh, okay. So Susan has a question. Can you say a little more about the forum and what it looks like and how it works? Yeah. So it's a private forum in the Little School of Big Change. Those of you who have been through the school know how the forum works. But if you haven't, yeah, it's just kind of like our it's like a private Facebook group, but without the Facebook, which is nice. So it's not on Facebook. It's not on any social media. It's just, and it would be just our little group. And it's just a place. You don't have to go there every day. Some people never go there and it's fine. But it is a place where I check it multiple times a day, and some people do. And you can put a question in there. You can share. People often share like how a practice coaching session went. We're sharing resources. We're talking about the understanding, and we're also talking about sharing the understanding, kind of in different threads at times. Again, like I said, if anything around the business side comes up, you can get a really quick answer, get a bunch of people saying, well, here's what I do, and just like sharing resources in that way. So that's what it is. It's just, you just log into the Little School of Big Change and it's right there for you. And you can just kind of use it however you want to use it.
Amy, can I add something?
Yeah.
So real quick, for any wannabe coaches, which I hope all of you are, I did not believe in miracles in my younger age, but somehow, and I can't even explain how Amy came across in my life. It was so strange. It was so odd. It was so incredible that she appeared somehow. And I believe in miracles now. I do. And this is truly the most incredible cult I've ever been in. Joking.
Dave, can you tell him that I didn't tell you to say that? I'm feeling super insecure now.
Oh,
Dave just volunteered to record this call because he volunteers all the time to be part of this, and I really didn't tell him to say that. Thank you, though, Dave. It's not a cult, but.
and this is Dror. I'm still here. I want to echo that. I wouldn't say cult, maybe quote unquote, but really a community. It's one of the greatest community I ever, belong to, and especially throughout the program, the level of support that happens beyond the peer coaching between the group members was really really nice. And I get like in the theme of the questions that I hear, and Amy, what you said, beyond the community, that a lot of people look for the form or the format. And I think it came up on the previous call as well. What I like to say to everybody who still is doubtful around what am I really getting, and compared to other programs that people do and then don't get anything from, many of the coaching programs out there really focus on giving coaches like a blueprint, let's say, for lack of a better term. This is how you do coaching. This is how you build your business. This is how you get clients. And in reality, this doesn't work for 99% of the people. They say, oh, that doesn't work. This format doesn't work for me. And then they give up. I think the beauty of this program is that there's some framework of what everybody does, but there's not a blueprint. Everybody finds their own way. Everybody finds what works for them, and that makes it so much more feasible, I would say, to 99% get to do that and not drop off or say it's not for me or lose the investment or any concern that a mind will bring for anything that we do. So I really just want to say these two things. I think that's part of the beauty of this program and the effectiveness of that concern. What if it's not for me, or what if I cannot do what's needed to be done? Everybody explores what they do for themselves. No blueprint. I really like that, and seek as distinguishment from other people. And Amy did not pay me to say that. It's just my experience. I'm just giving your.
No, thank you, Dror. Yeah, I know the blueprint thing. Oh my gosh. I mean, can't you see how like a mind just wants a blueprint? That sounds so enticing. but as you said, for like it just doesn't work for a lot of the people. It might point you in a direction of some ideas, but the blueprint that's going to work, and this is I think why so many coaches feel like the business building is a struggle, is they're trying to fit it into a blueprint someone else gave them, rather than just going out and consistently doing what makes sense. And it's almost too simple to be true, but it's true. All we do is just consistently do what we enjoy and what makes sense, and things happen from that. Rebecca.
Thank you for bringing up the whole cult stuff. I wanted to add, and my insight now is that I think part of the reason I wanted to ask those questions earlier was on behalf of my friend. You know, the more I'm around you guys and the thinking and all that stuff, I have no doubts myself.
Yeah.
That is actually another question though. When I'm at work, and I mentioned this to you, when I'm at work, I'm a completely different person. And I think part of the main reason I want to go through this course is how can I be around them how I am around you guys, which is, you know, completely aware of life and not in my head like I am at work. And when I get into work, I'm just so vindictive, and all those old thoughts, all those memories come up, and I'm just right back in my old mind again. But I wanted to mention about the cult thing was, you know, I watched that documentary about Scientology just to kind of confirm to myself that you guys aren't a cult. The really funny thing that came out about that is that my job relates more to that than you guys do. A lot of, you know, the manipulation, the terminology, the wanting to keep things within the company. I'm like, wait, my job does that. My job does that. I was finding that my job related more towards the cult than you guys do. So just so you know, I don't see you as a cult at all. And even if it is, I want to be a part of it.
You're in. No, it's awesome.
Yeah.
I know. And I know what you mean about, you get around them and the old thinking like just conditioned thinking happens. It's like, and I think that happens, you know, for many of us, like around our family of origin or like other people, it's like we kind of revert back to how we used to think when we were with them, you know, but you're just doing the right thing. Like you just staying connected to this conversation in whatever way feels right to you. It's like the scales just start to tip, you know, this takes more root right now. This is still newer. So
more and more, I'm feeling, you know, that I'm tipping more and more, but it is hard to go back around those people and just sit with that even, or just to know that, all right, it's temporary. You know, once I get back into my space, I'll be okay.
Yeah. It'll work itself out, really. I mean, right now, you know, it feels one way here and one way there, but I think over time you're going to start to just see that difference. Thanks. I always love the cult thing. It just cracks me. I mean, I guess to me, the only thing that's remotely cult-like about this is we do say some words that a lot of teachers tend to use because we're trying to describe something that's indescribable, and we tend to use some of the same language, which I guess is a little cultish. But beyond that, I mean, literally what we're saying all the time is do whatever makes sense to you. Don't listen to me, listen to you. Like, you know what I mean? That's what we tell our clients. Like, don't listen to me. Don't follow me. Don't let me be the boss. You have it within you. So in many ways, like this understanding is the complete opposite of anything cult-like, but I know it's, maybe it's the language or who knows, and there's no pyramid scheme because I'm not getting any kickbacks. When you guys get referrals and all that, you go off and you take all that. So it's just funny how our minds work. So Amy says, with the rate that the training is filling up, when do you think we need to officially register? So thank you for that segue, because I wanted to mention that the business building add-on that I mentioned again, it's where it's a whole month. It's where you get personal time with Drawer and Nipper on my team and Michelle, and you get consultation, you get the whole kind of resource sheet. That's going to be open to all coaches, even coaches I trained years back. But I want to do it for free for for people who are in the program as of this Friday. And when I say enroll in the program as of this Friday, December 11th, it just means with a deposit. We have a $1,000 deposit to hold your spot. You don't have to pay in full or pay any more than that. But for the people who have put down a deposit by this Friday, then you'll automatically be in that in June at no extra cost. For the training's about 2/3 full, and there's people trickling in every day. So it's hard to say, Amy, like exactly when. I'd just say as soon as you know, I don't want people to feel super rushed or super stressed about a decision like this, but when you're sure, and if, again, maybe by Friday, if you want that business building bonus, I would go ahead and do the deposit just as soon as you can. Last year it filled around Christmas time. Who knows? This year's a weird year, so who knows? But it's a little bit of time, but I'd think about it. And again, if you guys have questions, if you're hearing this and you are left with questions, you're not sure, or you just want to have a private talk with me, just reach out. I'm happy to schedule just a private conversation with you to answer any questions you have or talk about anything at all. All right, anything else? I'm so excited. Thank you guys so much for being here, for asking your questions. Oh, well, maybe. Okay, just a thank you. Yeah, I can't wait. I love doing this so much. I love leading the Little School of Big Change, and I love this because they're kind of two sides of a coin. I mean, I love like the busy questions from the big group of people that come through the Little School of Big Change, and then I love when there's a small group of people who just know. They're just like, this just feels right. I just want to go deep into this. And it's a very different feeling. It's such a different feeling to be in this small container and spend 6 months together, just seeing so much together, practicing this, getting good at it, seeing more about how all of this works, seeing what opens up for all of you guys just through the course of the training. I just can't wait to get started. Susan's asking how many coaching classes have graduated. So for the change coach training in this format that we're talking about, last year was the first year that I did it exactly in this format. So in that, there were 25 or so in that class. Before that, though, I've been training coaches for about 5 years. So Dave went through something I used to call Deep Impact. It was just a slightly different iteration. And it's just, all that is just me kind of learning as I go and kind of making the training better and better each time. So I've trained, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 groups of coaches in this coach training or change coach training version of it, like the format of it. This will be the second. Oh, Tammy saying, what's your big vision for the world? What if everyone knew this? Yeah, what if everyone knew this? My big vision is right here, change the paradigm in mental health, help people see, everyone see that no one is broken, that we all have what we need. We're just caught up in an innocent, simple misunderstanding about how we work. That's my big vision for the world. And that's too why I'm so excited about this, because you guys have that vision too. I know many of you do. And it's okay if you don't. It's okay if you're not sure and you just want to like dip your toe in it. But I also know that this is just my kind of, you guys kind of helping serve my vision, that when a group of people dive into this and see this and start doing it and feel the impact that you feel when you're helping other people, that becomes your vision too. Something like it that you'll say in your own words, and we can't do it alone. So I love that so many people are drawn to this. Yeah, Tammy.
One last very quick question. This is about you. Have you ever encountered a person's issue or their mental patterns that you just felt like it couldn't be done? It wasn't time for them to learn this?
Not that it couldn't be done, but yeah, there are people, I've sat with people where I've done everything I can do. I've pointed in every way I know to point, and they're just not seeing it. I think that happens a lot. But I also know, this is what's so great about this, is I know that it's not that they can't, And it's not that they won't. It's just that in that moment, the veil of thinking is so thick that they just can't see around it in that moment. And what's so great too about this is all the time we have these conversations with people and they flip off Zoom or walk out the door and you hear from them later and they say, oh, you were one of those. Like, you know, like you in the course. I mean, you saw so much just through, you know, at first nothing. And then bam. Sometimes they're gone out of your life for months. And then you realize, oh my gosh, like they saw something around that veil of thought, you know? So it doesn't always happen on our watch or from our words, but like directly. But what's so great about this is I just, you know, we kind of come to know, wow, when we point here, it shakes things up. And when they're ready to see it, they'll see it. Thanks. Okay, well, thank you guys so much again for your amazing questions. I would love to see you in the training. And just let me know what else comes up for you. I'm happy to talk anytime and I hope to see you guys all again very soon. Thank you. Happy holidays to everyone. Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.